Okay, people, so we have hit November, but as what usually happens, the Christmas films started coming. The Christmas films started coming. Oh, it is usually the bane of my life. I mean, there's been a few decent ones, but on the whole, they can be pretty awful. But I always try and keep an open mind, right? Because I think the thing with a rom-com, right, is you're always open for people being happy, right? So seeing that story, right, it's like the hero's journey. It's something that does compel you, right? You do think to yourself, oh, I hope this is a good one. All right, sell me, like bring me into this. You want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy it. But if that story doesn't hold up, then you're gone. You are gone. But okay, so we have a new entry to the Christmas rom-com, and that is a Love Hard. It's a new Netflix film, and it's from director Hernán Jiménez, written by Danny Mackey and Rebecca Ewing. It's produced by McG and Mary Viola. Cinematography is Shane Herbert, and the music is Mark Orton. Yeah, just hit Netflix just this last Friday, last week. So yeah, pretty new. And I'd kind of forgotten about it, right? But then I realized, oh, I remember this. I remember hearing about this one, right? Because it was sold as like a modern When Harry Met Sally type of affair. You know what I mean? I remember when they were talking about it. It's like, okay, so it's gonna be like Harry Met Sally, you got Mail, you know what I mean, with that modern spin on it, right? And like, I don't know, I like, you know what I mean? When you're describing a film and you're throwing all those things out there, you'll be like, "Ugh, is this gonna be all right? Or is this gonna be a bit of a a mishy mashy?" But yeah, you, as I said, look, you keep an open mind, right? Oh, I think it was like when Harry Met Sally meets Roxanne. Right? That was one of the other things they said. So our cast, right? We got Nina Dobrev, who plays Natalie Bauer. And her boss is Lee, and he's played by Matty Finocchio, right? So, all right, let's go. There's Josh Lin, who's played by Jimmy O Yang, right? Who I didn't know had got into movies. I just know him as a stand-up. So then you've got his dad, Bob Lin, played by James Satio. His mum, Chelsea. No, his mum is Barb Lin, played by Rebecca Sab. He's got a brother, Owen Lin, played by Harry Shum Jr. Owen's wife, Chelsea, She is played by Michaela Hoover, and his grandma June, who is played by Afia Kay. Right. We then have Natalie's best friend Kerry, played by Heather McMahon, and then there is Tag, played by Darren Barnet. Okay, so yeah, that's the cast. Now, the gist of the film is this: Natalie Bauer, a dating column writer based in Los Angeles, falls in love with a man named Josh Lin on a dating app and travels to his East Coast hometown to surprise him for Christmas. However, she discovers that she has been catfished and Josh is really a nerdy man. The name was right, right? Her crush, who turns out to be Tag Abbott, actually does live in the same town, and Josh offers to set them up if she pretends to be his girlfriend for the holidays. So that's the gist, right? Which, I mean, straight out the gate, people, you look at that plot and you be like, okay, right, I think I see where the hilarity will come from, right? You can see the situations that are going to just breed confusion, awkwardness, and yeah, hopefully laughs if if it goes over, right? You see that. Now, I think, look, as a film, right, and as a film of this genre, it's not the worst, right? I say it's not the worst, and I will say there are some nice moments. Like, it hits the beats, definitely hits the beats. So I think if this is your type of thing, then you will enjoy this film, right? I think that's it. Like, the acting is all decent, right? Those emotional bits and the feeling, the sentiment. You do believe the actors and actresses, right? Everyone doesn't do a bad job. Like, everyone, that sentence was just awful. So everyone does a decent job. You definitely feel Josh's pain, right? Jimmy O Young does a very good job of that, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, Nina, you can see her as Natalie, right? The family are the scene stealers. James Sado, Rebecca Stab, Afia Kay, right? They kill it. And then his brother, played by Harry Shrum, and Michaela Hoover as his brother's wife. Yeah, they all, boom, they really do steal this film, right? The problem is, for me, that it seemed the film really wanted to, I don't know, walk this weird line of being like, yeah, we're down. We are down. So it's throwing in so many cliches. Like, so many cliches. I don't know if they just Google searched for Christmas cliches and just round them all up. You know what I mean? Or rom-com cliches, and just put them all in a hat and just pick shit out, right? Because you have this girl. So it opens up and we've got Natalie. We're seeing her on dates and swiping, and then she's kind of narrating this whole thing like, hey, I'm eternally looking for love, but I just can't find it, and I'm having bad dates, but I've been able to parlay that into a job. And you'd be like, yeah, because that always happens, right? And a successful job, because yeah, that always happens, right? If it was maybe her just, like doing a podcast, or her Instagram, right? Her Twitter, doing something like that, I think that in itself is more believable, right? But then going, oh, she's a top journalist, you're a bit like, really? Really? Okay. Right? And not to say she couldn't be a top journalist, but going, oh, I became a top journalist because I've had bad dates. That's the thing which makes you roll your eyes, right? And look, there are bad dates, but then when some of the things that she throws out there, like, oh, this guy smiled too much. Oh, this guy, like the little thing she's pointing at, and you'd be like, oh, so he was horrible. He was horrible. He was horrible. Like, well, they're not really things. Now they do try and tag that at the end, but I'm just like, I think if at the beginning they really sell it like she's honestly just having a bad, like a actual bad time. They showed her being ghosted, but like the bad dates at the beginning, they don't really feel like bad dates, and it doesn't sell it, right? So you think, oh man, this woman is just crazy picky, right? Which is fine, but if then the conversation has to change, right? If it opened up and be like, man, I've been on so many dates, but I don't know what it is. I always seem to find some way to not enjoy it, right? Boom. Hey, you can emphasize with that, right? But to be like, oh, every day is just bad, and then just give the reasons, you just be like, eh, you know what I mean? Right? I just think, boom, tweak that bit. But we then have her match with Josh, right? Match with Josh. But right, so this is the thing. We see her go through people's profiles and be like, ugh, I mean, that is just terrible. Oh, that's a terrible. And read out things people have written and be like, oh, that's rubbish. But then when she reads Josh's profile, which again, cliched like a motherfucker, she's like, oh my God. Oh my God. You'd be like, wait. I don't see what the difference is, right? If you're pointing out cliches, then surely you do that with that one, right? Because the copy isn't good, right? If it was like it felt natural, you'd be like, okay, yeah, I buy that, right? But then they start conversating and just all of this, right? And you have playful things like, hey, I can't believe you haven't sent me a dick pic yet. Right. Or it was like, I'm so relieved. She wasn't asking. He was like, well, I was so relieved you haven't sent me a dick pic there. And then, he sends something, but it's not what you think. And you're like, ho, right? They do all of that kind of thing. But here is where they really get just like, oh, what are you doing? Right? Because they're talking about movies they like. And he says Love Actually. And she says, you know what it is, right? Die Hard. And throughout the film is this Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And it's just such a played out thing. Such a played out thing. And it's irritating, right? You often get those just irritating people, and you're having a conversation about films, and they'll be like, oh, well, oh, you think A Wonderful Life? Well, how about this? I'm throwing out a left field. My favorite Christmas film is Die Hard. Oh yes, I see. I see. You don't think Die Hard is a on contraire. Let me point out all the things that make it a Christmas movie. Fuck you. Fuck you. Right? It's boring. It is boring. Look, I'm not saying you can't enjoy Die Hard. I enjoy Die Hard. I thought, hey, it's a decent action film. It's not bad. It's not bad, right? But I have no need to try and force a narrative that it is a Christmas movie. I honestly don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that you could be like, oh, that could be this type of movie, or that could be, you hear people go, oh, Jaws isn't really about a shark killing people. It's a metaphor for blah, 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 blah. And we're like, okay, if that's what you want to feel, that's cool. You know what I mean? I enjoy it because of these reasons, and that's all. That's all. I don't need you to try and sell me on this other shit, right? But that's the start of it, and there is just this stuff forced in, right? So they're talking, and they're like, oh, I can't believe, like, they spend the night talking on the phone, and he reads to her and all of this kind of thing. Now, I thought, right, the unlimited calls and unlimited minutes and all of that thing was a universal thing. But there's like, after, they've been talking all night, he's like, oh, I should have taken this plan. I'm like, I just thought unlimited calls is just a universal thing, right? I don't know. That's not really a thing, right? That was just a by the by, right? But she's like, I love talking. He's like, I did too. It's like, we've known each other for ages. Now, we don't really get a proper time frame on how long they've been talking. There is that, right? Which I kind of feel would have been good. But he's like, oh, man, I just kind of wish you were here with me for Christmas, right? He doesn't come stay with me for Christmas. It was just might be crazy, but hey, it would be nice to spend Christmas together. But it's like, listen, you understand what Christmas is for some people, right? They spend it with their family. Sometimes they go away. So the fact that she then flies out is insane, right? That's just fucking crazy, because it's just like, all right, firstly, you want to give someone a clue so they can at least prepare, right? And whether that be buy enough food, get drinks in, things that your partner likes, right? There's all of that. But there's also maybe cleaning the place, putting up decorations if that's the thing, or making arrangements with the family, being like, oh, actually, my girl's coming for Christmas, or, oh, I'm not going to go to blah, 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 because I'm going to stay here with right? There's different things. So for someone just to turn up at Christmas, if it was just a random weekend, you'd be like, all right, cool. But when you don't know someone's plans, that's insane, right? That in itself is insane. So there's the thing. right? And you want to talk about catfishing and all of that. Yeah. But you have to point out the other crazy shit. I mean, and that is one that isn't really mentioned, right? That's not mentioned much. I think he says at one point, but you turned up out of nowhere. And she's like, oh, but you catfished me. Right? So we have all of that. Now, the other things is, obviously, her best friend, Kerry, is a larger girl, right? And you just be like, why do they always do that? Right? Why do they? No, I mean, there's the odd film that doesn't, right? But it does seem to be a requisite. The best friend is slightly overweight, right? You've got the jovial best friend who's overweight, and you're like, like, why does it always have to be that? It just seems played out, right? Especially when you have in this film the whole. Let's remember I was gonna say a few years ago, but it could have been a decade ago. But time, like, I'm all like, I have no clue. I have no fucking clue. Right? There's things that I thought happened just last year, and it was like 5 years ago. Right? And so, yeah, I don't say it was just a few years ago. I'm gonna say that is fuck it. You know, right? But there was the whole baby, it's cold outside. And then it was just like, we can't play this song. We can't play this song because it is rapey. And you'd be like, what are we doing? Right? What are we doing? Because if you're then calling out that song, there are a whole heap of songs that you then have to not play. Right? There's a whole heap of films. Like most comedies in the 80s have like scenes of people either spying on girls getting changed, right? Something with like girls doing to something to dudes to hurt their dicks. Like there's all of this, talking about, oh yeah, I had sex with her and then she woke up. I mean, there's all of that. So there's a whole heap of it. Like, you have to be consistent. But there was that whole big thing, and they changed the lyrics, and just the song sounds shit. Right? To be honest, I don't really care because I hate Christmas songs. So it's not like I'm playing this shit, but it was just a thing. I remember the thing. And obviously, this film makes a big deal out of it. Like the song comes on the radio, and she's just like, ugh. He's like, what? It's a Christmas song. Hey, my family love Christmas. We like this song. And she's like, no, it's such a rapey thing. And like says it a few times throughout the film, right? And there's a point when they sing the song, but he's just like, don't worry, I'll change the lyrics. And it feels so forced, right? It feels so forced. I'm just like, if they could have just removed some of these things, some of the falseness out of the film, it would have played better, right? Would have played better. Now, listen, I'm not going back on what I said because, Grandma June is part of the Lynn family and they kill it, right? But they do that cliche thing with her being mad inappropriate, right? So she's just like, oh, I want to try online dating because I want to get me some. It's just all shit like that. And you're like, ugh. I mean, come on, man. Like, how many films do we watch and the grandparents are like, I want dick and I want it now. And you're just like, okay. And there's a lot of acting like, oh, I didn't know that was wrong. You know what I mean? Because Josh is 30, right? He's 30. So then the whole, like these moments, right? The sentimental moments of, I didn't realize that me putting out fake pictures of my profile would actually hurt someone. I'm just looking for love. And you're like, ugh. Be like you're a 30-year-old motherfucker, right? You are a 30-year-old. Now, it's like you would have seen that maybe you don't watch it, but you would know MTV had that show Catfish. Was it MTV? It was someone that had that Catfish show, right? And just it's something that gets talked about so much, right? Like even these dating websites and apps, they always now throw up like guidelines and blah 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 and all of this. So to act like, oh, I didn't realize, be like, come on, man. Like, you can't say that. Can't say that. Like you could say something else, right? And he makes the other excuse he throws up is, oh, Asian guys don't get much love on dating websites. And you're like, well, really? Because there's a lot of, Asian people in relationships. So to be like, oh, they don't get much, you're like, come on, man. Come on, man. You know what I mean? Just be like, oh, I just don't feel I don't feel confident. You know what I mean? I've tried making myself over and it just never works. There could be that. And then you could have had a whole, like, montage of him with different styles, like mohawks and dyed hair and just all of this kind of thing, right? You could have gone that route, but they didn't. They went this just this woke fucking root, right? Asian hate and just like, yeah, come on, you are ruining the film by bogging it down with this bullshit that feels like you have shoehorned it in, right? I think that's the thing that really hurts this film, in my opinion. Now, obviously, everyone's not going to feel like that. But yeah, that seemed to be a big issue with this. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a situation that is so many holes in it. So many holes and disastrous. Disastrous. But yeah, I get. Oh, the other thing is, right, Farouk. It's Farouk's a misogynist and blah blah blah. And you're like, what are we, doing, right? What are we doing? It's crazy. Now, there's things like Ender's Game. I think Ender's Game is a great book. Orson Scott Card has some like out there opinions on certain things, right? I believe, if I remember right, he doesn't believe in gay marriage. It's stuff like that, which I just think, Orson, come on, man, get with the fucking time. Stop being an asshole. But I still enjoy that book, right? I can look at that book as being something, because if we really, right, went into the opinions of everyone whose work you consume, there's a lot of work you're going to be like, can't do that anymore, right? So just to be like, Farouk's an asshole, right? You might think he's misogynistic, right? But then does that mean his writing is still bad, right? And you can go, all right, I think he's an ass, but yeah, no, that was a good book. You could do that. But we have this thing of, oh, here's a Masala, like Peter, like Tag hunts, and she's just like, ugh. He eats meat, and he's like, ugh. And you'd be like, all right, someone likes things that you don't like. You know what I mean? That's relationships. You know what I mean? Look, you don't have to like everything. And I think it's the issue with films like this, where you're selling romance, right? You're selling the happy ending, but you are telling people, oh, if someone has a differing opinion, you can't like that person. Or you have to pretend that you like everything they do. Like she learns how to rock climb in less than a day, which is just like, not gonna happen, right? Not gonna happen. And here's the thing, right? You can be in shape, but when you do any sport that is different to a sport that you do on the reg, you're not going to be good. Not on your first time, right? And or you're just gonna be like, hey, I will say the first time I went rock climbing, right? It was, oh man, it might have been a 30th birthday party or a 40th birthday party I organized, right? And so booked an indoor climbing wall, right? And everyone loved it. We went. Um, and I got right. The thing is, I got up the wall. I then fell off the wall. Fell off the motherfucking wall on my head. It could be part of the problem. But to be honest, I had mad concussions before that moment. So, hey, you know what I mean? The damage was already done. But that's the thing, right? I climbed up the wall and then I fell off the wall because you can't perfect, right? And the other thing is you ache because you're using different muscles. Using different muscles. Now, at the time, I was doing jujitsu, well, I think 4 times a week, gym every day, swimming, I think like 4 times a week. I mean, I was mad active, but rock climbing is a different animal. So it was just things like that, which is just what? And then, yeah, it's just this narrative of how they're looking at relationships and showing relationships and being like, you have to like the same thing. You have to do this and blah, blah, blah. Right? You have a weed moment in the film, which again, mad cliched. Mad cliched. Because I gotta say, right, this chick, after a joint, she would like, and it's not like she smoked, right? So she'd have been paranoid, right? With the energy she was giving, she'd have been paranoid like a motherfucker, right? But they want to show it like, hey man, I'm so cool, hey. And you're like, yo, come on, man, this ain't the 60s, 70s. We know what weed is, right? Why are we doing this shit? Oh dear. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because, as I said, the performances were good. The performances were good. The script, it was, average. And I think without the shoehorned BS, it would have stood up more. It would have stood up more. Now, it wouldn't have been tremendous, right? I don't feel it would have been that, but right, it would have. I feel it would have been okay. Right now, here's the thing, people. Right, so obviously this wasn't for me, right? But there've been better. Like I liked stuff like Just Friends. That's an okay Christmas type film for me because it is over Christmas that they hang, right? So I'd say that's probably a Christmas film. Probably. I don't know what the fuck here. But then you've got like The Holiday. Again, that's a better one. Um, Love Actually is it's an odd one, right? Because I think I hate I hate some of the parts in Love Actually. You know what I mean? Like I think it's just the gosh, it's the uh what's the one? The Liam Neeson story is horrible. I hate that. Hate that. Right? The story with um Keira Knightley and Matthew Lincoln. Again, don't don't like that one. Don't like that one at all. And the Hugh Grant story. Ugh. I did like the Martin Freeman one. The Martin Freeman and the young lady from Gavin and Stacey. I like that. I don't know, man. That one felt more genuine. Ah, the Emma Thompson one just killed me. I felt so bad for her, right? Especially because I know it wasn't as recently, but when she split up Kenneth Branagh, and I'm like, oh man, poor Emma Thompson. Oh, but I like that story, right? So I like those ones. Now, the main one with the singer and all of that, it was stupid, but I didn't mind it, right? So I liked a few of the stories, but a lot of the stories I was just like, ugh, just too much. But hey, now we covered this film last Christmas, right? Um, yeah, I don't know if I've actually got around to uploading that episode to the website. Now it's on Anchor. It's definitely on Anchor, so you can watch it there, and I'm sure it's in iTunes and Spotify if you go down the list. But we talked about A New York Christmas Wedding, which hey, that was a really nice film. That was a really nice film. I enjoyed the hell out of that film. So yeah, search the archives, people, and go and check out the interview and the review and all of that. And it's on Netflix, so you can go check that out. But yes, if you like holiday, Last Christmas, stuff like that, I feel that this will resonate with you more, right? But it's on Netflix. Love hard. Hey, you know, go do your thing, people. I feel I've given you enough to make your choice. See, is it for you? Is it not for you? Right? If you sappy Christmas, it's probably for you. All right. So fill your boots, have fun. There you go.